Welcome to Discovering. Tonight we'll be talking non-motorized trails with some of the guys from the Dickinson Trail Network.
Dickinson Trail Network is a registered 501c3 nonprofit group of dedicated volunteers whose mission is to build, maintain, and promote non-motorized trail use in Dickinson County.
Then kids learning about lake sturgeon. And the ticks are out. Who better to talk to find out what we need to know about ticks than the one and only Tick Terminator. Sit back and relax. That's all tonight, right here on Upper Michigan's very own Discovering.
The secret streams that flow beneath the cliffs of colored stone. Forests thick and healthy with birch and pine and oak. Surrounded by the greatest lakes this world has ever known. The black bear's awesome presence as he roams the hills and fields. Call of the timber wolf, the loon's lonesome trill, the eagle soaring high above, the trout lies deep and still. These are what I treasure, the only way I measure feelings that I have for this fine land. There is so much to discover when you're a long-time lover of northern Michigan.
Whether you're hiking, biking, or skiing, it's a great excuse to get out in the woods. It's even better on a trail. Nowadays, non-motorized trails can be found just about anywhere in the UP, providing access to areas that the general public otherwise would never have the opportunity to experience. I was in Dickinson County where I met up with some of the guys from the Dickinson Trail Network.
So we started out as Dickinson County Bike Path, and we wanted to expand into off-road, non-motorized trails that you see here. Single track, multi-use trails, hiking, biking. So last year we had a dedicated group of mountain bikers and outdoor enthusiasts. We got together and rebranded Dickinson County Bike Path into Dickinson Trail Network. From there, I added some structure to the group, also added a business model as well. We studied our fellow bike networks throughout the UP, and they set an excellent example of a proof of concept and how non-motorized trails, bike paths can have a positive economic impact on small towns throughout the UP. So I want to give a big thanks out to Copper Harbor Trails, Nquamanon Trail Network, Ramba, Munising, also Delta County, Iron River area. They've all done an excellent job, and we've modeled a lot of what we've done off of what they've already accomplished and their success. We've used them as an example of success, a proof of concept that really helped us out when we were proposing both to the city and to different municipalities, including the county. So the trails that are currently built, we try to incorporate trails of varying difficulty, different terrain. A lot of the trails you'll see on the north side of Millie Hill are what we consider black diamond or high difficulty. They're built by individuals that love mountain biking and love a challenge. As you wrap around Millie Hill, you'll see more intermediate and beginner style. As we expand, our goal is to aim more towards that intermediate level, so more people, the bulk of the population, is able to enjoy our trails. Everything you see here was built in the summer of 2019. Right now we have trailheads here on Millie Hill. We also have a trailhead out in Norway and Fiume Lake Natural Area. We took over maintenance of that trail network. As we continue to expand, we will have a trailhead up on Pewabic Hill, which is east of Millie Hill. We also plan on building trails on Pine Mountain and expanding into Kingsford as well. There's also plans to expand over into Loretto. The reason we call it Dickinson Trail Network is in the next 5 or 10 years, we plan on building connector trails between all these trailheads and creating a true network that you're able to bike, walk, and hike point to point. So Dickinson Trail Network is 100% volunteer based, and all the trails that you see now are 100% built by volunteers. As our group continues to grow and we get additional momentum and funding and support, we plan on hiring trail professionals to come in and augment what we're able to build. It'll add to the quality of the trails and especially to the speed at which they're able to be built. So these trails will benefit our community. We hope to have a multi-million-dollar impact both on the local economy, also throughout Dickinson County. These trails can be enjoyed by locals to this area. It'll also attract tourism. So we hope to help out the local stores, downtown businesses, especially Millie Hill is located right in downtown Iron Mountain. So we hope that the restaurants, the local stores, everybody benefits and we help rejuvenate downtown. We also hope that this will attract young professionals to this area. 5 years ago when I moved back to this area, one thing I noticed was lacking was a non-motorized trail group. We saw the success that they were having in Copper Harbor and Marquette, and we were wondering why that wasn't established here. So instead of asking why, we took the initiative, we took over responsibility for that, took ownership, and really built what we wanted here.
I met with Jason Morgan at the Marion Park Trailhead in Norway to talk about some of the trails in that area.
Marion Park at our OG trail system. We started this in like 2018. This section was built here in the park. It's a 1.5 mile, fairly gentle rolling single track. Last year for 2019, we added a connection out to the north around Oak Crest Golf Course. Roughly about 7 miles of single track out there that ties all together with this. This year we're adding roughly 20 miles, pretty much surrounding Norway. We have approvals for building on this Norway city land on top of Norway Hill by the old Cyclops mine. We have two more school forest approvals. One is on the west side of Norway Mountain, and the other one is just north of there on just next to Pine Creek Lake. So we're really trying to expand this area and promote tourism, provide opportunity for people to get out and recreate out here. We also just received approval for building a biking/hiking trail up above the existing Piers Gorge Trail. So that's another 3 mile loop there in that Piers Gorge natural area. And to tie that all together, we got approval from Verso Paper to use their river frontage there to tie from where we dump out by Piers Gorge Road to the Piers Gorge natural area. So the construction of these trails is pretty labor intensive. We've got some power tools now that help us get the job done. We've got a specialized brush cutter that we designed that actually rips the top layer of sod off, and it creates this narrow path for us. We also received a grant that we were able to purchase a brand new Bobcat E20 mini excavator this year. A lot of our areas that require a lot of hand bench cutting, now we can go in there with that excavator, and it really cuts the volunteer hours down to be able to use that tool and then just hand finish a little bit versus having to cut it all out by hand. A lot of the finish work is still, like I said, by hand with hose. It takes a lot of hours, but the end result you see is a pretty nice path that a lot of people can enjoy. We also groom these in the wintertime for snowshoes, fat bikes, cross-country skiers. We groomed 7 miles of single track last year, and we also groomed a wider path on Oak Crest Golf Course, which is just a great partnership for us to be able to work with them. You know, it draws people to something that's, you know, usually dead in the wintertime. We had some group snowshoe events that were drawing 60 or more people out. And then late in the winter, we did a 5K snowshoe race as well as a fat tire race, which turned out pretty well there as well. So all kinds of opportunity other than just biking out here.
So we've come to find out that mountain biking, especially downhill mountain biking, can be generational. Mountain biking as we see it today didn't really exist until the 80s and 90s. And that's when we were kids and we could see it and we thought, wow, that is some of the coolest things we've ever seen. Now, my generation, as we're getting into our late 20s and 30s, we want to bring that back and rejuvenate it. So in my opinion, I think that's why you're seeing a resurgence of mountain biking, extreme popularity, packed houses, sold out races, and towns that are just flush with tourism and race day events.
The big one here is girth. The little bit lighter colored one under the darker colored one is snork maiden. He's the middle-sized fish. And the smaller one, a little bit darker gray, is Maurice.
During the school year, Upper Peninsula students had the chance to learn about lake sturgeon, not just from a book, but hands-on. U.S. Fish and Wildlife and the U.S. Forest Service teamed up with 4 schools in the western UP. In late September, each school received a tank with 3 lake sturgeon from the rearing trailer on Lake Ogibic.
This is the inaugural sturgeon in the classroom. So we have Bessemer here, we have Ironwood, we have Ontonagon, and we have Ewan-Trout Creek. We're really excited about this.
Great Lakes Restoration Initiative gave us some money to buy equipment. I mean, we got 6 tank setups.
We wanted to let the students have a connection with the sturgeon. It was a way for us to teach something that we're kind of passionate about, the sturgeon themselves, and it's local. The idea behind almost all the work that we're doing with lake sturgeon here is to reestablish a population, a spawning population into the Ontonagon River system. The number of fish that will go into the river will be much larger than 3, of course, but these 3 fish in this classroom will teach hundreds of students across the western UP about sturgeon, about the Ontonagon River, and about threatened and endangered species and what kind of work it takes to reintroduce them and get them going again.
The students are learning an awful lot. There's a biology component where, yes, they're learning about the life cycle of a fish and things like that, and that's all important.
The largest sturgeon that was in record is 7.2 meters long.
But they're also learning a historical perspective on why these fish were important to the native peoples of this region, why they're just a super cool fish to see, and why the numbers diminished drastically, and why it would be important to bring them back. You know, this is a threatened species. To have them in our classroom is really a treat, and to be part of something that's bigger than just, you know, chapter 7 or whatever it would be. What they do matters, and it's going to matter in the long run for this really uber cool fish. We just love them. Students will come in every day to look at them, and the usual impression is the same every time. Wow, they grew since I looked at them last, and looking at them last may have been the day before. They're growing very quickly. It's a lot of work to take care of them. They need attention every day of the week.
Every day, 7 days a week, they need to be fed with the bloodworms. And on the weekends, when my teacher, Mr. Rowe, doesn't come in, my family, my dad, my brother, and I will come in and we'll get the bloodworms and we'll feed the fish. Just drop the bloodworm cubes in warmer water and dump them in here for them to eat. When you open the top, their noses will come out to the top of the water. And you can just touch their nose, or you can put your hand in there and they'll just go right onto the palm of your hand. And they go feisty right when the bloodworms are in. Then on Monday, every Monday, we measure them, and we measure their length and how much they weigh.
145 grams. And you can go back in.
So they get fed half of their weight a day in food. So every week we gather data, what is their current length, current weight, what was it last week, how much did they grow this week, and then we have to figure out how much food to feed them each week.
This is the biggest sturgeon of the whole project so far. Holy cow. Oh, he's beyond measurement. So he's at, I'm guessing 364. 200 on the dot.
Wow. So when we got them the last week of September, 2.5 months after that, they had doubled in length. In that same 2.5 months, they increased in weight by about 700%. They are growing very rapidly. They're thriving in this environment. It has been fun to be working with other schools and to compare the progress of our school to those.
So the 6th grade is responsible for weighing and measuring the fish, also responsible for feeding and cleaning the tank.
So we're gonna get the fish out of the fish tank. We're gonna see how long they are, and then we are going to put them on here and see how heavy they are. 43 or 143.
Lots of different classes in the school that come to visit the fish regularly, and also some kids who get to come to see the fish for special occasions too.
One thing I would like to do is thank Sturgeon for Tomorrow, the Black Lake chapter and Black River chapter in southern Michigan. They started this program 5-6 years ago. There's about 25 schools that they have down there, so they were really helpful in helping us understand what we had to do, what the fish needed, and to get us going on this program. So we've really got to thank those guys. And as we're finding out now, the communities are really accepting this, and it's going to be a great program.
The classroom lake sturgeon were released into the Ontonagon River this spring, and they hope to do the program again in the 2021 school year.
Springtime in the UP, unfortunately, means bugs. And on that list, of course, is woodticks. To get the scoop on woodticks, I talked with Brian Anderson, better known as the Tick Terminator.
Springtime, ticks are out. Oh my gosh, they are definitely out. I mean, you got to be careful out there because ticks are more or less going to be in low-lying shrubs, grass, things like that. They're not falling out of trees. They sit on a blade of grass and they do what they call questing, waiting for some poor soul to walk by so they can have a meal, all right? And we don't want that poor soul to be you. We'd rather have it some kind of animal, but that's just kind of how it is. Ticks are not in sunny areas as much. They're going to be more in shaded areas because they need moisture. All right. In August, ticks kind of go away a little bit because it gets so hot. So we definitely need to be watching out for them and trying to keep them off from us. So that's kind of what I do. There's basically 3 types of ticks we have in Michigan here. You have the American dog tick, which we call the wood tick. And we also have the one with a little white dot on the back. It's called the Lone Star tick, not necessarily off of the state of Texas. But then we also have what we call as a black-legged tick. That is the deer tick. So the deer tick is the only one that actually carries Lyme. So that's the one we need to be cautious of the most. And a lot of people ask me, well, what is a life cycle of a tick? The life cycle of a tick is approximately 2 to 3 years. The female gives birth to about 1,000 or 3,000 at a time, and it's right down obviously in the ground. So they come out in the shape of an egg, and they're in the egg for a couple weeks, and then they break out that egg, and then now they're in what they call is a larva stage. Now during that larva stage, like any newborn, they're looking for something to eat. So what they do is they typically get on like a white-footed mouse, a chipmunk, or something like that, and they start sucking the blood out of that little varmint. And that takes them about 2.5 days. They're gonna kind of just morph into the next stage over the rest of the summer and the fall and the winter. During that morphing series, if you want to call it that stage, they grow 2 more legs because they're actually only born with 6. So now they're going to grow 2 more, so now they're going to have 8. That puts them part of the arachnid family, the spider family. And so then when they wake up the next spring, after they've been down in the leaf litter all winter, they are very small. They're called a nymph tick at that time. Some people call them a sea tick. Now the thing about them is that when they were sucking the blood out of that little varmint there last summer, the white-footed mouse or the chipmunk, the pathogens or the germs they got from that is what turns into Lyme. If they were to get it, they get it from their first host. So now, if they have Lyme, even if it's a small little tick, the nymph-sized tick, that's just as lethal as a full-grown adult. The nymph-sized tick is so small, it's the size of a poppy seed, all right? And you can barely even see them. You can barely even see them on your shoes or your pants or your shoelaces or on the back of your hand. And that's why it's so important to keep away from all sizes of ticks. So now that tick, the next summer, is going to be going for food. And that's, of course, going to be some kind of varmint, maybe us. And then they just morph into the next series, that next winter. They come out the next summer as a full-grown adult. And then the adult, typically they're going to go on a deer, and they mate on the deer during that winter. Next spring they wake up, the male jumps off the deer, dies, the female jumps off, and she gives birth and she dies. So it's about a 2 to 3 year life cycle for ticks.
The Tick Terminator will be back next week to talk about the best way to keep ticks away. Well, that's it for this week. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you next week right here on Upper Michigan's very own Discovering.